Everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Living Deadwax podcast. I am your host and co-moderator here. I am Ty, joined by my always co-host and co-moderator Tyler. Tyler, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm excited for tonight. I did a little
Yeah.
bit more research. We've talked this ad nauseum over the years. Our favorite of these, you'll reveal it in a second. But did some research, did some rewatching this week as well, and I'm stoked and I'm ready for what we're doing here.
I'm very excited about tonight. Before we get into it, hit that like button, subscribe. Please, we would appreciate it if you're into music related content, vinyl related content. We got vinyl hauls almost weekly. We do news roundups now, so we talk about music news and mostly just classic rock bands doing stupid shit. And we also talk about movies, which is tonight's topic. I chose tonight's topic. We always choose the topic at the end of every episode, so stick around to the end. You can see next week's topic a little early. I chose favorite music movies. Now, this one was fun to do because I tried to narrow it down to movies that are specifically related to music. So either music documentaries or a movie about a band or like a specific scene, something like that. There are a lot of great movies with great soundtracks. Forrest Gump. I get the Elvis part, but I don't at the beginning, but I don't consider Forrest Gump a music movie. So how did you approach this topic tonight?
So I purchased very similar. I think I have one that I guess you possibly would call out because we already did talk about this over the weekend. We talked about it when we hung out on Saturday or whatever. So like I have one that may break that possibly, but I have to put it in here, so it is what it is. But I approached it much the same. Yeah, I didn't pull anything Forrest Gump because, for example, that's a movie that does, while you could have a little bit of music in there, and the soundtrack is obviously fucking killer. You're not, when you talk about Forrest Gump, you're not immediately talking about the music or talking about musical things in the movie. You're talking about everything else around that movie. So that happens in the movie, really. But I approach it much the same way. So yeah, I think we're in it together, and I think we're gonna have a few that are the same. But I think we both made a little bit of an effort here to be a little bit different from each other, though we are best friends, so we will have some overlaps.
Yeah, I usually try to keep it around a 5. This is just a fun list to do, so we'll do 5, but we'll just see where we're at on time and maybe just run through some honorables here at the end. So definitely an exciting topic. So Tyler, go ahead and get us started. What's your first music movie? What are you ranking tonight?
All right, so it's the closest to me. So like, are we? If I'm ranking this, I don't know where I'd put it. Like, it would be near the top.
I didn't mean anything by that. I didn't mean anything by that.
I got you. I got you. All right, so this closest to me, so I'll just reveal it now. It's gonna be on both of our lists here. But a little movie called Airheads.
Do not own it. I don't even.
Oh wow! All right, there we go. I think this is like $10 now too.
DVD is pretty getting up there, and the Blu-ray is long out of print, very expensive. And unfortunately, this is a movie where it's not on streaming. Nobody cares about Airheads, unfortunately. But I don't want to bury you chose Airheads. I'll definitely talk about it, but go ahead and what do you got?
No, you're right. Airheads, we already did this. I did some research on this. Yeah, it's not any streaming, but not even that. It's not even available to buy. So if I wanted to buy it right now, and if I did buy it, if I bought it before when it was on iTunes or whatever, it'd be going away. So that's the weird thing about it, is that you don't actually ever own any digital content, which kind of sucks. Obviously, if you have physical copy, which is your point in buying physical copies for a lot of this stuff anyway, that's your philosophy behind it. I know that, but for this exact reason. But it's just insane that Airheads is a forgotten, non-existent movie, and no one gives a fuck about it. So it's insane. But Airheads anyway. I first saw Airheads. I don't know, when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. It was definitely a TV classic, basic cable classic. And VH1 played it as a movie that rocks all the time for a good 5 or 6 years, and I caught it every time. Caught it on HBO a bunch of times too, and it's great. Obviously, anything with Buscemi in it and Sandler in that time too. But Steve Buscemi, we talked this a million times between us, but Steve Buscemi is one of the greatest actors of our times. It's just hilarious the movie that he finds himself in, that he decides to act in, because most of them he doesn't need to do that. It's way below what his abilities are as an actor, but he just loves doing it so much. He loves who he's working with so much that he just does it, and it's awesome. It's amazing. Steve Buscemi's character in this is loosely, I guess, based on Rex from Pantera. Like, that is something they actually talked about.
His name's Rex in the movie.
Exactly, his name's Rex in the movie, and it's all. If you haven't seen it, Airheads is all about a power slop, which I guess is just '90s metal, non-hair metal. I'm not sure, but a '90s metal band that kidnaps and takes over a radio station in central Los Angeles, and they want to get their single played in the air, and then hijinks ensue, and they eventually end up getting an entire concert riot going wrong outside of the studio and everything else. And it's a very funny movie, but love it.
Yeah, if you've never seen it and you're into comedies and music movies, I highly suggest that you check it out. It's an all-time classic. It's got a great cast: Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler. Farley makes an appearance. Ernie Hudson of Ghostbusters fame. Michael McKean of Spinal Tap fame. Harold Ramis even makes. Yeah, Michael Richards, Harold Kramer, Harold Ramis even makes an appearance. Judd Nelson, David Arquette, yeah, Joe Montana from The Simpsons. So he's the DJ. So just a classic cast. And one thing I will say about this with the recent Brendan Fraser resurgence is maybe somebody will try to pick up the rights and put this out again and get it back on streaming, because whoever owns it just does absolutely nothing with it, which is crazy because it's a giant cast. And I honestly think it could be kind of a cult. It is a cult movie, but I think it could become even bigger and more of a classic because of that cast. And I think a lot of people would go, oh, Brendan Fraser, I know him from The Mummy and he's back. And oh shit, he did this movie fucking 30 years ago with Adam Sandler. It's also one of Sandler's early movies too. Just classic quotable lines. One of the best music movies ever. 100%. I love the ending part, you know, when they go to prison, they play live from prison, so they do the Johnny Cash thing. It's to me, it's a better, like, I understand it's not Spinal Tap's a mockumentary, but to me it's a more funny version of a metal movie than Spinal Tap. I know that might be controversial. I'm not a huge Spinal Tap fan. I appreciate for what it is, but to me, like, Airhead stacks above it as far as like a metal parody. Because all the shit in there is like it seems very realistic and like stereotypical, like that era bands.
100%.
Also, White Zombie is in it as well.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Slight, just real quick, but yeah, White Zombie is in the movie, which is cool. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'm not a huge. It's on my honorable list. So I'll spoil it. Whatever. Lemmy also in the movie. There's a good Lemmy exchange in the movie as well. Yeah, it's a great fucking movie. Like I said, I'm not a huge Spinal. I like Spinal Tap for what it is, like you said, but I'm not big on that. I think like that kind of was a yesteryear kind of a deal, right? It was just a little bit before our time. It's funny for what it is, though. But yeah, I would say this is definitely maybe a more identifiable in the certain characteristics about the movie than what Spinal Tap is for a lot of that era. I would say. So I would echo that.
I don't hear it talked about literally at all either. And if you don't know, I collect physical media. My wife and I have a Blu-ray channel that doesn't get updated anymore because we had a child. But the that channel's still up. We just don't do a lot with it. So, but I'm in that scene on Instagram and on YouTube. I still subscribe to all the channels. I never see anybody talk about Airheads. I never see anybody bring it up in 90s comedies or like, and I think if it hit Blu-ray and got with a boutique label and they did a really cool set with it, I think it would become bigger than what it is. So I also love Airheads. I didn't put it on my list because I knew you were going to talk about it. So it's kind of a dual. It's kind of a dual list there.
Something that's weird about that movie, we've talked this numerous times again privately, so I should stop saying that. But if anybody wants to find something on the podcast, it's not on the podcast at this point. But there's a very weird thing about that movie. It has a piece of lost media that no one seems to have. The song in the movie by the Sons of Thunder, they're a very small piece of that movie, just a band or whatever the hell that the Lone Rangers, which is Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler, which again is hilarious. They're named that, but it's a rival-ish band they have in the scene. And there's a song that they play in that movie that you cannot find anywhere else. And it doesn't exist. They never put on the soundtrack. They never got leaked. It was never on the internet. It literally does not exist. It's an actual piece of lost media that people have made the effort to track down. They've messaged labels, they've messaged studios about it, they've messaged producers, they talked to the band that did the song. The band also does not have a copy of the song. It is a true lost piece of media. It's hilarious that that's a thing.
Yeah, it's true that song just disappeared, and you can find internet threads about it, like people trying to find the song, and it's just gone. So somebody has it out there somewhere. Let's do an Airheads record store day release.
Boy.
Let's get that song. Do it out of like 500 copies.
Lone Rangers, and then Sons of Thunder on the B side. 7-inch
right
there.
Yeah, there you go. Make it. Yeah, do it like do it red and call it like Lone Ranger Red or something. We're just printing money right now, by the way. So
sorry.
Anyway, we could talk about Airheads. We could do a whole podcast on Airheads. Absolutely just quotable movie. I've seen it so many times. First time I saw it, man, I don't even remember. I was probably around 5 or 6. It's just a constant. I remember one time my brothers had one of their friends over. This is in Maryland, so it's pre like 2000, and they had like a Farley night.
Oh wow!
So they played like all the Chris Farley movies up to that. I guess he was passed by probably at that point. But so they did all the Farley movies, like a marathon, and maybe that was the first time I ever saw it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I want to say it was a UPNer at one point, and that was basic. Wow. That was network. So I want to say it was a UPNer at one point, and I think I caught it there. And then later it got picked up, like I said, by VH1 and HBO and stuff, and they played it forever. But I think I was a UPNer, and I think it was, like I said, around the same-ish time. So yeah, it was in the stratosphere, and we got pulled in around the same-ish time with it. Thankfully, because Airheads is a perfect little movie.
Yep, it's a great time capsule, that scene, like that kind of early 90s hard rock. The transitioning into grunge, they even make fun of grunge. Beavis and Butthead's even in the movie. Like there's
true. In that
movie. Yeah. And that's like the peak. That's basically peak Beavis and Butthead at that point. So
that's 93, 94.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, let's get on to my pick. Now I'm going to try to pick stuff that I know Tyler is not going to pick. So I don't want to overlap too much, because we can sit here and talk about Airheads or whatever the next movie Tyler's probably going to pick forever. So if Tyler doesn't pick them, I will mention them and be shocked. Okay. But I'm going to go with one Tyler's probably not going to pick. I don't even know if Tyler's ever seen. I watched this for the first time, actually, 2 nights ago. And I definitely wanted to talk about it because I've always heard about it. And that is this Criterion release of Inside Llewyn Davis.
No, I know it exists. I've never seen it.
Okay. I highly recommend you watch this movie. I think you'd really, really like it. So Coen Brothers movie, Oscar Isaac stars. He's a early 60s folk singer in New York. And this is kind of like a just good period piece about him trying to make it as a singer. And it's typical Coen Brothers, so it's a very black comedy, but it very fits the whole type of struggling musician motif. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because there's a cat like central to the plot of the movie. And it's funny because I was reading about it, and the Coen Brothers had this movie, and they were working on this movie for a very long time. And it's actually, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's actually loosely based off a real person. Wasn't like a big famous singer, but they based it off kind of his autobiography. And they felt like they didn't have a plot. Like they didn't have a central running theme, which I find really funny because the movie works without the cat. But they like, all right, so we put the cat in the movie, and that's like the central thing that moves the movie forward. Very good movie, very dark comedy. There's a lot of funny scenes. One pretty funny kind of dark scene is like he's struggling really bad, and he has this friend that his friend is a professor, and like randomly, like his friend and this guy's wife just love Llewyn Davis for whatever reason, and they just like his music and shit. So like he ends up crashing there like 3 nights in the movie because he's basically homeless. He's just living on people's couches, and so that he like shows up one night to bring back the cat, and because that's their cat. And he shows up one night to get the cat back, and the guy answers the door, the professor guy. He's like, "Oh, Lewin, you're here, whatever. Come on in, come on in." He's like, "Nah, I'm just dropping off the cat." It's like, "No, we're having a dinner," and you come in, and so he comes in, and they sit down to have dinner, and then they get him to play. They're like, "Oh, play us a song, play us a song," and he starts playing the song, and the wife, it's an old song because he had a partner, and they released a record, and then they broke up. Something happens to the partner. I'm not going to spoil it, but they broke up. So he's playing the song. He's playing that old song, and the wife knows the song, and she starts singing the other guy's part. And like Lewin just flips the fuck out and gets crazy, and he's like, I'm not a fucking circus animal, okay? I do this for a fucking living. Like, I don't ask you to fucking teach me about fucking whatever. He says something like I can't remember what topic he says, but it's like some like college topic. I don't come to your goddamn dinner party and expect you to teach me this or whatever. And it's a really like intense, awkward scene, but it's so funny in that Coen Brothers magic. Really, really cool movie. Good soundtrack. T-Bone Burnett put together the soundtrack as well. So it's all like of that period. Really cool original songs too. There's Bob Dylan's not in it, but there's like a Bob Dylan cameo at the end of the movie. Somebody's playing Bob Dylan. So it's kind of funny. Like Lewin plays this bar that he always plays, and then like Bob Dylan plays right after him, and hijinks ensue. This is a really good Criterion too. Movie came out in 2013, but this is a 4K digital transfer. So it looks really good. Blu-ray disc, but it's a 4K transfer, so it looks excellent. There's a 43-minute doc, which I still have to watch. There's a 101-minute documentary about a tribute concert to this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Joan Baez, Marcus Mumford from Mumford and Sons, Jack White, a bunch of others played on this tribute show to the movie. And to Llewyn Davis. So very cool. Always good special features, and it was one that I didn't think it was going to get talked about. It's one I wanted to watch forever and never did until the other night, and I was super happy with it, and definitely highly recommend. I think you'd like it a lot.
Ooh, I will check that out. Yeah, I knew that existed for a while because I always saw it on lists and stuff like that, but I'd never seen it. I knew it was Coen Brothers. But sounds very interesting. And I looked it up. So it's about Dave Von Ronk. It's loosely based on him, and he was a folk singer in the Greenwich Village in the revival in the 60s. So loosely based on him, it looks like. But no, it's very interesting. I will check that out for sure. So
check it out.
Yeah. All right. So another one I have here. I don't think it's gonna be on your list, so whatever.
Oh, okay.
But this is a movie that stars one of my favorite artists of all time, and is a near and dear movie to my childhood. And as an adulthood, I think it's still in adulthood, I think it still holds up. That is one Labyrinth.
Oh,
starring David Bowie. Yeah, so
Labyrinth movie though.
I mean, it's a musical.
Yeah. All right.
Would you not? Okay. Would you not call it that?
Or no, I got
a musical.
I get what you're saying. I'm just like, are you? So, I understand it's a musical. I have seen Labyrinth before. I don't own it. There's a really cool 4K set of it, but I get what you're saying. I just thought you're picking just because Bowie is in it, and I'm like, all right, well, why don't we pick any other movie with? Why don't we pick?
You're right. You're right. Looking back into what I just talked about, by the way, Ty, and when you were talking about how I viewed this, I realized as I pulled this out and I had it in my hands, I was like, wait, this doesn't really apply, but whatever.
No, it's cool because I have a musical in my list too that I might talk about. So let's riff on.
Yeah, there you go. So Labyrinth, David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly. I have been in love with Jennifer Connelly without knowing it for many, many, many years.
Yeah, and it's definitely
that's true. Very, very true.
You're not special.
Yeah, I didn't know that she has a scene that's very gnarly in because I've never seen the movie, even though you gave me the code for it, but I need to watch it at some point. Requiem for a Dream. Did not know that she has a very gnarly part in that movie. So that's what I think about now. I got to see that because it's pretty crazy. But Labyrinth,
you should watch Phenomena by Dario Argento. I should let you borrow that. I don't have a code for it. But well, that's like she's like 14 in that movie. It's one of her earliest movies.
Oh, you told me that.
And she ends up in this pit, and it's pretty fucking gross. So
yeah, love it.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, there you go. So Labyrinth, David Bowie stars as Jareth, uh, and it's all about basically him kidnapping her sister or her brother Toby, and taking him into the labyrinth. She has to find her way with the help of many Muppets, and he has a number of musical numbers in here. And what's funny is I watched like the little bit of a documentary they have with this, and they asked Bowie to do some songs for it, and he was like, yeah, for sure, I'll see about some music. When they said that, they kind of meant like a song for it, right? Like they just said like some music, and so they anticipated a song. Bowie then brings in Jim Henson and his son, and because he worked in the movie as well, and he has an entire record done for this. Just fucking insanity, because Bowie at this time especially was super crazy. This is the 86, right? 85, 86. So sober Bowie finding his way in the 80s. So for me, one of my favorite Muppet movies. I'm not a big Muppets guy, but it's one of my favorite Muppet movies, and I think it's one of my favorite music movies too, just based on the fact that it's a musical. But again, thinking about what I said opening up this podcast with you, this goes directly against it, but we're fine. We'll see what happens. But there you go, Labyrinth. I don't know what you have on Labyrinth, but I love it to death.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. The last time I remember watching it, I'm like, it holds up okay.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of, now this isn't a musical, but Never Ending Story.
Okay, yes, 100%. Is
It's
it Never Ending Story also Jim Henson? Is it a lie?
Shit. Let me look it up. I know it's 84.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I don't know. No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it has anything to do with Jim Henson. Yeah. It's based off a German like fairy tale, which that doesn't mean Jim Henson's not involved. But anyway, Jim Henson's not involved. But yeah, that's just kind of the vibe that I got from it. It's been a long time. Does Bowie do all the songs in it? Like, is that soundtrack all Bowie tunes?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, off the top of my head, everything is on here is Bowie. He did the entire soundtrack, and yeah, it's Bowie and Arif Mardin, who was the co-writer on this. So yeah, but everything is Bowie. Yeah, he just knocked it out really quickly too. Within like a matter of like a month or so, he knocked out the entire thing, and then he surprised the movie producers and the directors with what he had, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I've had that 4K in my hands like 3 times at Zia, and I just never bought it.
Yeah.
So I do need to get on it because eventually it'll probably be worth money, just like all
for
things.
Sure. I ended up being able to snipe a code for that at a Goodwill, so I got very lucky on that. But I was stoked when that came up. But yeah,
and it's the UpRes 4K.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Got super lucky. Ooh, hold up. No, it's not. It's the HD. It's not the 4K. Lied to you. I think it's just. I think it is. I think it's just the HD. So yeah. It did come with all the such features and stuff though, which is cool.
I think the 4K came out like last year for the anniversary, whenever that came out, the 40th anniversary. So maybe a year or two ago. It's a really cool set. It looks like a book, the 4K. Definitely want to get it, but definitely a cool movie. One I didn't think you were going to pick. So good choice. I like that. It'll be funny if we both do this where we don't want to pick the movies that the other person's going to pick, and then we end up not talking about like the obvious movies.
For sure. Actually, now that you just said this, so I'm about 100% that I had the HD before, but I think that 4K got posted and it's now 4K upgraded. So it has cool. Atmos and Vision and everything. So there we go. So
nice.
Didn't know that until right this moment. So there we go. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Goodwill.
Thank you, Goodwill.
All right, I'm gonna go with this one. One I know Tyler's not gonna pick, and I might have given you the code for this. No, I don't have a code, so I didn't. Okay. But you check it out. I'm gonna bring up Lords of Chaos. So this came out. What was it? 2018.
18. Wow. Okay.
2018. Funny part about this is I've been hearing about this goddamn movie for like 10 plus years. Like that's how long it was in the works for it. Lords of Chaos is all about the Norwegian black metal scene. Now I'm going to preface this with something that this is a Hollywood version of this movie. Like they leave out crucial people to the scene that just aren't in it. It's basically just about Mayhem and Varg, which is there's a lot of other shit bad, good, a lot of other good records, bands that were in that scene as well that don't even get mentioned.
Yeah.
But I wanted to throw it in there because it actually is a really cool movie, and it's a horror movie, which is a different concept for a music movie. So they really lean into the crazy story, the suicides, the murder, all that stuff. And uh yeah, Rory Culkin plays Euronymous, and he's really fucking good in it. It actually has Jack Kilmer too, Val's son.
Oh wow.
And he's real good in it too. I can't remember. Does he play Varg? I can't remember. He's really good in it too. This is directed by Jonas Ackerland, who is not tied to the Norwegian scene, but he drummed on some Bathory records. So Bathory was a major influence to all the Norwegian bands. So Jonas Ackerland is loosely tied with Bathory. I mean, he wasn't like a big part of that band or anything. Corathon is that band. It's a one man band, but anyway, Jonas was he does have some parts on some Bathory albums, so that is kind of cool. There's a tie in there. Jonas Ackerland later went on to direct Madonna videos, and I think he's done Gaga videos. Like that guy's that guy's made a shit ton of money. But they were working on this movie forever. I highly recommend it to watch it. I'm gonna do a 2 for here though, because if you want to actually learn about the scene, I'm gonna recommend this movie, a documentary that I think is still on YouTube that came out, shit, I want to say like 2009 or something. So let me pull it up here. But Lords of Chaos is cool for a Hollywoodized version of the film. But if you want to actually get into more of the scene, I would recommend Until the Light Takes Us. And this movie is still on YouTube, as far as I know. I've watched this movie like 4 or 5 times. It's an absolutely great fucking documentary. They interview a lot of the key people in the scene. It's actually really fascinating too, the way they do the documentary is because they show it from a lot of Varg's point of view, and they have a lot of Fenriz too from Dark Throne. So it's really interesting because they interview Fenriz for a lot of the movie, and Fenriz is one of the main guys in Dark Throne, still doing records. They drop a record like every 2 years. Obviously a hugely important band to that scene. So they kind of do it from his point of view, and they do it from Varg's they interview Varg a lot in prison. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and there's a really powerful scene in it where this guy is putting together this art exhibit, and he's using a lot of album covers and like liner pictures from albums, from Norwegian black metal albums. And Fenriz goes to the art exhibit, and it's a really interesting scene because Fenriz is like, they're just putting like, because that's like his culture to him, like black metal. He's lived that basically his entire life since he was a fucking like 15-year-old. And he's like, this is really weird because it's like they just fucking are putting my culture on display to go point at and go, oh, that's really interesting. Look at this weirdo and corpse paint. So like there's really cool scenes and like that, really cool interviews. They interview a lot of the key people in the scene. Yeah. So if you want like a good documentary, highly recommend Until the Light Takes Us. If you want a Hollywoodized version of that, Lords of Chaos, not a bad movie. Very
creative licenses.
Yes, creative licenses, but some decent acting, and it's a good like gloss over of the scene. And if you want to kind of like get a general take of mayhem, it's not a bad film, and there's some good acting in it too. So
yeah, there you go. All right, so I was looking up while you were talking there, obviously I was looking up a lot about Lord's Chaos. So obviously did not know based of the book. So Jack Kilmer played Dead, and Emery Cohen played Varg.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, Sky Ferrer is in the movie. Did not know Sky Ferrer is in the movie. We probably talked about it before, but Sky Ferrer is also in the movie.
Who's that? I'm trying to picture.
She is Anne Merritt.
I think she's Euronymous. Yes, she's Euronymous' girlfriend.
Okay.
Probably. There's only like one female in the whole fucking movie. So it's got to be her.
There's also there's also a Skarsgård in the movie as well, who
Okay.
plays Faust.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah. There is
that's
some
kind of all I
interesting.
recognize.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there is some other bands mentioned and other key players, like Faust is a key player. Faust is from Emperor. So there is some key players in that. So, but again, it's like they don't even mention Emperor. I don't even think they say Faust by name. And like
Oh wow.
Emperor is almost as big as Mayhem to that scene, arguably maybe even bigger and more
Yeah.
influential. So, anyways, Lords of Chaos, definitely interesting. You would like it. It's a cool movie,
Yeah,
and it's
we
more
talked this before. I need to watch it.
it's more of a I would look for a code, but it's more of a horror rock movie, which is
Yeah.
kind of it doesn't happen a lot. So yeah,
It does not happen a lot. I don't know. Well, I guess Dave Grohl just made one last year, right, or the year before. That's the only
yeah.
one I
I
knew
mean,
about.
horror and rock go together, but like that's a
Yeah,
movie. There's a lot of horror movies with rock soundtracks. I mean, Cooper
yeah.
in fucking Friday and Dokken and Nightmare and Bruce
Oh,
Dickinson
true.
and Nightmare and shit. There's that kind of goes hand in hand with those 80s slashers, but
For
there's not a
sure.
lot of movies directly about a scene because they could have did that movie not a horror movie. Like
Yeah,
you
they
could
could do
do
a
it as
straight
like
up
a
movie.
crime drama or whatever. But like the dead scene
Oh
is
wow,
very
yeah,
the dead suicide scene is very intense.
yeah.
And the Euronymous Varg scene when Varg kills Euronymous is very gory and intense too. So they took it over the top and trying to lean more into the horror element. So highly suggest it. Until the Light Takes Us as well as a twofer there on my pick. So there you go.
Yeah, love it. All right, so another one here. I'll avoid some of the basics, the real obvious ones. I'll avoid this for a little bit so we can kind of wax poetic on them at a certain point. Another one that I love. I don't know if Ty's seen this. I don't know if you've seen this or not. I think I've told you about it, but you might have. Studio
Still never
City or
watched it.
Sound City. Okay, wow. All right. So Sound City, Sound City Records or Sound City Studios, excuse me, is still a studio. They brought it back in the heart of Hollywood, I believe, and North Hollywood maybe. And it's where basically every big record from the 70s through the early 2000s was recorded. From Fleetwood Mac to Nine Inch Nails to Nirvana, Foo Fighters, and everything in between, all recorded at Sound City. So Dave Grohl, Sound City, I think officially closed, I want to say in about 2012, maybe 2011. And Dave Grohl went and spent a bunch of money to go ahead and buy the audio desk from the Sound City sessions, which is where Nirvana recorded Nevermind at, obviously. So he went and bought the audio desk, the control panel, which I'm spacing on the name right now, but it's the obviously the mixing board, whatever, right? So he went and bought that, and then once he bought that from them, he was like, "Oh well, this tells a whole story by itself," and decided he wanted to make a documentary about all the bands recording there and what the studio meant to them and why it was so cutting edge and the attitude about it and everything else, right? It's a killer documentary because everyone's in it. So Dave Grohl has enough pull in the industry that everybody likes. Nobody ever has like a bad thing to say about Dave Grohl, really, and everybody likes him. Whether it be, like I said, Stevie Nicks or Trent Reznor. It doesn't matter. Everyone likes Dave Grohl. So they all came together to do interviews and to talk about their experiences working at Sound City. And they also, this right here, this is the soundtrack for Sound City. He also cut a record with a vast majority of those musicians, and they made songs together. Like he has the song on here with Trent and Josh Homme from Queens of Stone Age, and they have a whole super fucking cool song on here. They also have Rick Springfield, Taylor Hawkins, obviously, Stevie Nicks. They have Tim Comerford and Brad Wilk from Rage. Just Corey Taylor's on this thing too, because I think the first two Slit records, or maybe just Volume 3, is at Sound City. Just fucking everybody on here.
Is Lemmy
It's
on
just
that
awesome.
too, or is that the Lemmy movie?
No, Lemmy movies is what that is. Yeah, Lemmy's not on this one.
Because Dave Grohl's in that and they cut a song together. Okay,
Okay.
never mind.
Yeah, I don't seeing that now. I don't believe Lemmy's on this at all. Oh, that's also where they did. So Mantra is the Dave Grohl, Josh Homme, and Trent Reznor song. This is also Cut Me Some Slack, which is Nirvana minus Kurt plus Paul McCartney. that was that song when they opened up the Grammys, I think it was, and they played that.
I remember
that. Pretty fucking crazy, right? But yeah, so super cool. This is the soundtrack, and that's the audio desk that Dave bought from Sound City, and now resides in the Foo Fighters Studio 606, where they record most of their records at now.
Very cool. Yeah, I still have not watched it. I've seen clips of it. I think what you've shown me, but yeah, I gotta watch that.
Yeah. It's so fucking cool because, I mean, like I said, everybody he's a friend of everybody. He knows everyone. Everyone likes him, and they are down to do things with him. He's basically like the token rock guy at this point, and has been. And luckily, he's a good dude, and he likes a lot of stuff, and he's very good, and whatever. But he's a stereotypical rock. He's not he's the go-to rock dude for anything. The Grammys, if you need a rock guy, go here. The Oscars need a rock guy, go here. It's Dave Grohl is the guy now, right? And so he did everything he could to put this out there, and it's a super cool documentary. And if you're into the history of the recording history, but also into a lot of the bands from that era, the Eagles are on here, fucking everybody's on here. I would definitely recommend checking out Sound City. It was on YouTube for free to stream for many and many a year. I don't think it is anymore, but if you want to check it out, look at where it's going to stream at. Fucking do it. It's super sick, and they have tons of pictures, tons of interviews, and just it's awesome. So
very cool.
Sound City, check it out.
Cool choice. Alrighty, I'm gonna go with one here that Tyler's probably not gonna pick, but I'm gonna absolutely really enjoy. This is the Shout Factory 40th anniversary steelbook of this movie, Rock and Roll High School.
Ooh, there you go.
So in the musical vein, the Ramones, it's about loosely kind of about the Ramones. It's all about getting Ramones tickets, and the Ramones take over the high school at the end of the movie. They're not in it that much. It's funny. They're only in it maybe like the last 15 minutes, but this is a really cool set. There's a cool making of documentary, and they talk about like getting the Ramones on set and getting the Ramones on set, like the chaos of that situation, and like trying to teach them how to sort of act in a movie, even though they were just acting like themselves. Really good soundtrack. Obviously, I got the iconic title track song, Rock and Roll High School. You also have the Halloween connection. PJ Souls is in it, who's in the Halloween 1978. So you got that connection as well. I just always dug this movie. I think the first time I saw it was maybe on the Movies That Rock on VH1. That a lot of these movies are going to be on. But rewatched it last year with Anna for the first time, and got Togar sucks in the back. And Anna really enjoyed it too. It's just a fun, cool movie. Like, even if you're not into the Ramones, like it's just a funny, cheesy late 70s movie. 79, so you're like almost basically at the peak of the Ramones' power. So so very, very cool. Very fun movie. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on Rock and Roll High School?
So I've seen it a couple times because it actually got taken up by Fuse, I want to say later on, and they had the movie. Basically, it's the same thing, Movies That Rock or whatever. So I watched it on Fuse a couple times. It's super crazy and weird to see the Ramones were like a real happening on like, not that obviously whatever, but it's hard for my mind to like wrap around. There was a movie studio that was willing to give money to the Ramones, a punk band, and make a whole movie based around them. It's fucking insanity to me. But something I forgot that I had up until this moment in time, I have the Rock and Roll High School 12-inch single.
Oh, very cool.
It's a radio sampler. Forgot that I had this. Yeah, this was in a I want to say Brittany's, my ex's, I want to say her grandfather bought lots of records at one point or whatever, right? And this was in there, along with a bunch of other stuff too, which is whatever. Okay. So I think he just bought this randomly. He would never buy this, whatever, but he bought a lot of something, and this is in there. So Rock and Roll High School, the sampler. No, it's a cool little movie. I've only seen it a couple times. I haven't seen it in many years, but I liked it. It was, like I said, it was really cool to see that, and it still was a mind blow, the fact that the Ramones got any money at all, or any studio was willing to back that movie. It's just kind of fucking insane.
Yeah. There's a really interesting making of too on here, and they talk about all that, and they had the premise of the idea before the Ramones were involved. So Ramones ended up getting involved after the fact, if I remember right. It's like an hour-long documentary, so it's just, if you're any type of fan of the movie, get this set. I got this for like $10 on Shout Factory's website. they were having a Roger Corman sale. So any of the movies that he produced or executive produced were on sale for his birthday, I think. And this was in the list. So I had to pick that up. Last little tidbit about it. One thing I find funny as hell, and Anna and I were laughing about, is PJ Souls. She's like in love with Joey, and she has these like fantasy scenes where she fantasizes about Joey like getting in her bedroom and shit. And it's the most awkward cringe shit ever because Joey Ramone can't act. And he's also like, I'm no George Clooney, but he's like one of the most ugly dudes on the planet. He just looks like a grimy punk rocker from New York. Like,
yeah,
but she's fascinating like about this dude. Like he's David Coverdale or some shit. So I just find it those scenes are really fucking funny. But Rock and Roll High School. I dig this artwork too. Very fucking cool artwork on
for sure. No, yeah, absolutely. It's just the characters, everybody looks super good, and yeah, the idea behind the entire thing is fucking perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. Rock and Roll High School.
Love it. All right. Another one here that all right, I'll go with it. Ty did not put this on the list because he knew I would talk about it, so whatever. But one of my favorite music documentaries of all time.
No, gotcha.
A little thing called Decline of Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years.
Man, it's a nice copy of that.
Oh yeah, it's super sick. This is the best thing we ever found at Revolver Records. I want to say was this. So, R.I.P. Revolver, you fucking sucked so much. Yeah, you did. But so you got Dave right there on the cover, which is super cool. So
which
if you've never
seen it, hilarious because like made us not very important to that movie. They're in it for a very little bit, and like they're not even like. Yeah, they're basically like the antithesis to that movie.
Yeah. No, 100%, which is funny because like, the buildup is about the glam scene, whatever, around LA. And then the very last part of that movie is Darkest Hour. And it's them basically talking about how they're not fucking about that scene. That's not their personality at all. And it's just Dave in his fucking sunglasses smoking a cigarette, fucking just singing, and they're just playing the fucking song and shit. That video is also a super cool video, and I had it on as an honorable on our video when we didn't post that, so whatever. But I had it as an honorable on my music video list because I just think it's so cool. The way they shot that and everything else, I just thought it was really awesome. But if you've not seen this documentary, I would recommend doing so. It's Penelope Spheris, right? She directed Wayne's World and did other stuff too, which I'm not remembering, but she did other stuff, but she's a Wayne's World director. The reason why she got Wayne's World is because she did this movie. So it's all about the mid-late 80s glam metal scene in LA. They interview a lot of the heavy hitters, if not the heaviest of hitters, and like Poison. They have Kiss in there. They have Faster Pussycat. They have Cooper in there for a little bit. They have Lizzie Borden. They don't have Queensryche in there at all, but it's on the soundtrack.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I mean they're from Seattle, so they weren't even in that scene. So
yeah. Also, Rigor Mortis and Metal Church. Also not in the documentary at all.
Metal Church is from New York, so that's interesting. Is that a Metal Blade? Is that Metal Blade produced?
Capital. So that's why Megadeth's on here, I guess.
Okay. I think Metal Church.
Well, they probably all.
No, Metal Church is not. Metal Church is on Elektra.
Okay, interesting. All right,
interesting.
Also, Motorhead, Lemmy's in it. Lemmy talks about a lot of stuff. Obviously, Ozzy's in it. There's a big Wasp scene with Chris Holmes, which is the one that everybody sees all the time. It's fucking horrible, whatever. And it may or may not have been faked. That's still kind of like an iffy thing. But I think it's very interesting just because it's about that scene. And it's about both the bands and the fans together. And it's about the fans and how they identify with the scene and what it means to them or whatever, right? And then you talk to the bands, and the bands are all, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are just about fucking and about partying and having fun and doing this and that, whatever, right? And it's kind of funny because you see like the young bands with that attitude. And then you see the slightly older generation bands like an Aerosmith or a Kiss or a Cooper, they're also in there, or Ozzy. And they talk about it, and they're kind of trying to grow up, kind of. They're in their late 30s, early 40s. Yeah, and they're trying to grow up.
The Ozzy scene's hilarious because he's cooking the eggs.
Yeah, and then also the thing is supposedly the when he spills the orange juice, that also apparently was fake. That was not a thing that happened, maybe. So whatever. The only person in that movie that's straight is Cooper. I think Cooper's the only straight one in that entire movie because
Probably,
everyone else, I guess, Kiss were never fucked up on anything, so like whatever but they were always just like Kiss and doing their thing. But Cooper was the only one that ever was actually straight in that movie. Everybody else was still doing their shit and still did for quite a while, I would assume. But it's interesting to hear his take on a lot of it because Cooper was obviously not about that life at all. Even when he was drinking and partying and everything else, he was just an alcoholic. Like, that's all he was. He was never really about like partying necessarily. He was just drinking with his band and his buddies and stuff, right? But yeah, so cool soundtrack. I mean, all the bands in here, whether they're in the movie or not, I guess. And a lot of interviews with a lot of the guys are, pretty iconic, and the fans especially. We've looked these fans up for from years later, and it's
some of the bands too.
Yeah,
some of the bands. Like, remember we found that one dude who's a magician. He was a magician in Vegas or whatever.
Oh my god, no! I
don't. What band was he in? Fuck, I can't remember.
So Seduce was one of the bands. London's one of the bands.
I think it might have been that guy in Seduce. Like the lead singer is now a magician in Vegas, or was circa 10 years ago.
Fair. The wet cherry guy.
The Chris Holmes scene that's fake, right?
I believe it is fake. Okay. I believe it is fake. Like, I want to say he said it was fake too, but that scene basically is just Penelope Spheeris interviewing Chris Holmes in his Beverly Hills mansion pool, and he's drinking vodka on a floaty, and she's asking him questions about why he drinks and stuff, whatever, and what's important to him. And he just gives the alcoholic answers of like drinking's out, he likes drinking. Why does he like drinking? Because he got abused or whatever as a child. And what makes that even crazier is if the scene was real, I guess, which, whatever, but like his mother is right on the pool deck right next to, where they're shooting at, and they show her and they ask her how she feels about this. And she kind of just goes, it's him.
He might not be drinking real vodka there, but it's still a fucking intense scene because it's still real. Yeah. He is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And his mom's right there. So that's probably one of the most intense real scenes in the movie. It is a great movie. She did 3 of those. The second one's by far, I've never seen all the other ones all the way through, but the second one by far to me is the best one.
I know the first one gets jocked a lot. It's just I haven't seen it in a little while. It's all about the early 80s punk hardcore scene with Black Flags in it a lot. And then the third one is about the like late 90s, early 2000s punk scene in LA as well. And it's about basically fucking kids that are squatting and, trying to make that stuff happen in their bands, whatever.
Which is interesting because I'll ask you this real quick, then we can move on. Penelope Spheeris, a movie that I've always wanted to see that she did, Roger Corman produced it, just talking about him from Rock and Roll High School, is Suburbia. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, what is that movie?
It's a movie I saw it's about punk rockers in a small town, and they end up squatting in this home and shit, and Flea's in the movie.
Okay.
I've always wanted to see that movie. It's a movie that she directed. It came out in 1984. Yeah. And I think I saw somebody post about it. I think it might have got a Blu-ray or a Shout Factory release or something. And somebody posted about it, and I looked it up, and I saw, that's one of Flea's movies. So I was like, just wondering if you'd seen that. But I definitely want to see Suburbia. But yeah, Decline, great documentary. If you've never seen it, if you even have a passing interest into heavy metal and like 80s hard rock, that whole scene, like, it's essential viewing.
100%. 83 on that movie, by the way. That's an early Flea movie.
Suburbia? Yeah, it came out in 1984, so it must have been shooting in 1983.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's crazy.
Alrighty. Let me move on to one that I know it's not gonna be in Tyler's list because he hasn't seen it at all.
Okay. And I think we're just going long. I think we're just gonna end up going long tonight. Detroit Rock City.
I have seen it with you. I watched it one time with you.
Yeah, one time. You got to rewatch it. We got to rewatch this. This is the DVD because the Blu-ray is absolutely ridiculously expensive. This DVD is great because it has those wonderful DVD menus where they were putting like so much time and thought into the menus, like almost more thought into the movie, so that it's all interactive and shit and has all the fun features. I always appreciate that about like early DVDs. When did this come out? Like 2001, I want to say 2001.
Yeah,
it was like right after the reunion. This is a fun fucking movie. It's got Edward Furlong in it. Got some other recognizable people in it. Basically, it's about these kids who play in a Kiss cover band. They're in high school, and the whole thing is they want to go see Kiss at Cobo Hall in Detroit. And the whole antics ensue where they win tickets, but then they end up screwing it up, and they can't get the tickets, and then they basically just drive there with hopes they can buy tickets, and they can't buy tickets. They got to get money, and then the whole movie is about them trying to get into Cobo Hall and see Kiss. And I absolutely love this movie. I'm not a huge Kiss fan, but it's just such a fun vibe. Great fucking soundtrack on this movie too. Also another great cover as well.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, the hand drawn covers are peak, man.
Yeah, really, really fun movie. Great fucking soundtrack. A lot of recognizable people in it. Highly suggest it if you are any type of Kiss fan. You've already probably seen it, or if you're into any of that type of hard rock or music scene, because it's a really fun movie. Funny too. Still holds up. Still is funny. There's a cool cover of Everclear doing The Boys Are Back in Town too.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Good. So
that's Everclear.
So yeah. So there we go. Detroit Rock City. That's one of my picks.
There we go. I love it. All right. So another one we have here that I know Ty's not going to pick, but I will go. And I know that it's not a popular, pick among like the hardcore fans and even some of the band, but regardless, I really enjoyed the movie and I still do for what it is. That's a little thing about the Doors. So this is the early 90s Oliver Stone Doors movie starring Val Kilmer. This is probably I knew Pops talked about the Doors for sure, but probably most of my initial Doors knowledge came from this movie. I think it was a movie that rocked on VH1. It definitely was, but I want to say that's the only time I could have seen it. Yeah, I couldn't have seen it any other time. So VH1 posted it up at some point and put it in regular rotation. And I watched it there. You kind of get an insight into the early happenings of the band and Jim and the intertwine of the relationships between him and the band members, and then his girlfriend Pamela Corson, all that. And I know certain members of the band have come out and said that certain things are inaccurate, are way too much creative liberties to it and stuff like that. Oliver Stone kind of stands by the movie still, and obviously doesn't dispute that necessarily, but he acknowledges, I think, some licensing going on there. And I think that the big thing is that they made him look crazy, and the whole thing is nobody ever thought he was crazy. That was the thing. A lot of the band members and a lot of the close friends is they didn't like the portrayal of Jim in that way, because there was always a method to the madness for a lot of what he did and a lot of what he said and his attitude towards things. He wasn't just crazy, and they didn't like how they portrayed him that way, I guess. So gotcha. I like I said, I love the movie for what it is. I don't take it as gospel. The Doors have actually put out a number of cool documentaries about the band, and they're all pretty killer. They give you a good idea of what the band was about and how big the band was, and what the scene was like around them. So that's kind of cool. But the Doors movie, I still think it's pretty cool. Val Kilmer's in it. I think Rory Cochran's in it too. Just a pretty solid. Also, Heather Graham's in it too, isn't she? Isn't it Heather Graham?
Shit, I can't remember. I've only seen that movie once, and I can't barely remember it. I do need to get it because I'm trying to. Oliver Stone's one of my favorite directors, so I'm trying to do that subset on Blu-ray / 4K. So I do need to get that movie. That is the Criterion Laserdisc, isn't it?
It's the Pioneer Special Edition. I don't know if a Criterion exists on Laserdisc, but it's a Pioneer Special. Yeah, this is definitely a different cover than I've ever seen before, and it's very odd and weird. That's a fucking terrible, weird crop picture, obviously, of Val Kilmer doing Jim Morrison. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, that's a cool picture, but zoom out and just have them be on there a little smaller and make it make sense, because the proportions are so fucking weird, and it just looks stretched and old.
Meg Ryan, is that who you're thinking of?
Meg Ryan, there you go. Yeah, Meg Ryan, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, Meg Ryan. Kevin Dillon plays John Densmore. John Densmore's
Emma McLaughlin. Yeah.
Yeah. Crispin Glover plays Andy Warhol. A lot of people in this movie forgot about.
Yeah.
Yeah, good choice. Good choice. Definitely one that I saw on a lot of people's list, obviously. So I think even if you're a big fan of the band, you're going to point out, oh, that didn't happen. I think it's still a well shot, well directed movie. Oliver Stone doesn't really do bad movies, so
for sure. And the ending scenes when they're playing, I think they're playing the end, right? And that's the end of the movie, and it's fucking so cool. Granted, they put in a lot of creative licensing. They put a lot of like the imagery and what have you is obviously not real. But the last little show they play, it's fucking so cool. So if you're a fan of the Doors, the very least, check out the movie. But the very, very least, check out that last scene because it's really finely done and it just sounds and looks awesome.
Yeah, good choice. Alrighty, I'm gonna do a twofer here, coming in both out of the way. We'll get some docs out of the way. So I'm gonna go with Iron Maiden, Flight 666, done by the Banger Films guys. Sam Dunn he's done a lot of good movies. I like a lot of them. Rush, Beyond the Lighted Stage, another good doc. I don't own it anymore. I don't know what happened to my copy. I might have turned it in. I need to buy another one. But anyway, I do enjoy that. Beyond the Lighted Stage is on Netflix for what I remember. It is. So great documentary by them about Rush. This is the documentary they did about Iron Maiden, and it's all about the Somewhere Back in Time World Tour. I've got the poster back there as well, and yeah, it's all about that tour, crazy fucking tour. It's all about making the plane and Bruce flying them around for a lot of the tour. And it's really well shot because they intersplice some of the live footage in between. So like you'll watch a lot of the movie and then they'll play a song, and then you'll watch a lot of the movie, they'll play a song. So it's really cool. Or you can just watch it as a live concert too. So cool stuff there. It's a really cool slice of life just to be a part of the band and like see what goes into an Iron Maiden tour, which is obviously a lot, especially this tour, which is ginormous. So really cool. Highly recommend that one. And then the next one that I definitely probably even more recommend, because this is a movie that anybody can watch. Like if you're into just history, Scream for Me, Sarajevo. This movie is all about Bruce and his solo band going to Bosnia to play a show with the USO during the Civil War in Bosnia, and specifically Sarajevo, the capital. And they went to go play this show there, and they played this show. It was 94, and they played this show in a high school gym, and it was basically not announced because they didn't want to announce the show because they thought the show was going to get bombed. So it was kind of it was unannounced, and it's fascinating, the documentary. They go back there and they interview a lot of the kids, now adults, that went to that show, and they all talk about how like there was like rumors swirling that Bruce Dickinson from fucking Iron Maiden was coming to Sarajevo, which is like nobody ever comes here, and you're in the middle of a fucking war. So like all the metalheads and shit were freaking out and like, is this real? Is this not? Are we going to go to this gym and get fucking blown up? That type of stuff. So they couldn't announce it, and it's all about getting the band in there and out of there and stuff. And Bruce is in this a ton. The band, basically the whole band, is interviewed too from his solo band at this point. And there's a really powerful scene at the end because they actually end up going back there, and they go back to the same gym, like Bruce and the band revisit, and they telling stories, and they actually meet a lot of the kids that were at that show.
Awesome.
In when was this done? Like 2016, 2015. So they 20 years later, they go back and actually meet a lot of those kids, and they get to introduce themselves to Bruce and shit. And their kids are now adults. They're older than me. They're freaking out.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really powerful movie. Even if you're not into Maiden or Bruce, highly recommended because it's fascinating. The story of them getting in there, getting out. They couldn't announce the show. They had to do it in secret. They thought that everybody's getting blown up, and it went off without a hitch, and they did it. And it's really fucking cool. And great soundtrack too. Obviously, they use a lot of Bruce songs. So
yeah,
there you go.
That's fucking crazy. Watching. So I've never seen the Sarajevo documentary. I've never seen that, but I have seen the Flight 666 because that was another VH1er. So that got ran on VH1 quite a few times, or VH1 Classic quite a few times. So I have seen that. That is a crazy documentary. Like you said, it's all about just that tour and everything that goes into it. And there's just so much shit that you don't even think about. And obviously Bruce being the pilot for majority of that, or if not the entire thing, is also just a fucking another weirdo wrinkle in that, because you just don't ever think about that. And he's more or less a regular dude in that movie. And again, that's I'm not a huge Maiden fan, but like, it's still very crazy to think that one of the biggest dudes in metal or in music in general, just a regular fucking dude, but he's also a pilot because he's a smart guy and he wants to do so much weird, crazy stuff. He's a fencer too, and just fucking Bruce Dickinson, man, doing crazy
Interesting
shit.
Man. Interesting
for
man.
Sure. Say the least. There you go.
Highly recommended both those, even if you're not into the bands. They're both really good to watch. Highly recommend the Sarajevo documentary, because that is pretty powerful stuff. You don't have to be a music fan to enjoy it.
100%. Love it. All right. So the next one is, I'm just going to do it. Whatever. I have so much here. Might as well just fucking do it. So I have, for my next one, I have quite a few different physical pieces of media associated with this movie.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest music movies of all time, or most, widely acclaimed or whatever, right? A little movie called Almost Famous. So I have the soundtrack 3 times over. So I have the massive big box that has most of what I hold in my left hand already in it, but in different, categories. There you go. So I have the massive big box. Would recommend getting this. There's a lot of cool little extras in here. So there's the big box with all the stuff. It's fucking 6 LPs. And then I have the Target exclusive soundtrack. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I have that one.
Target exclusive. Yeah. So I have that one. And then I have the web store exclusive of this. And then I have the Rex Day Stillwater EP that has all the songs that Stillwater did, and demos and what have you, which is super crazy because Stillwater and the band the movie's based on is Nancy Wilson and Cameron Crowe writing songs, and then having Peter Frampton also, you're correct, writing the songs. And then I forget who the vocalist was, but the vocalist is a guy of some note. I forget, he's in a band of some kind. I forget which one it is. But yeah, so it's all about, if you have not seen Almost Famous, obviously, if you're watching this, I'm going to guarantee you probably have. But if you haven't, Almost Famous is about, it's 73. It's about a writer paid by Patrick Fugit, who is a 15-year-old in the movie. He gets a gig by lying about his age. He meets Lester Bangs, which is a major rock writer at the time, a real person. With Lester Bangs, he gets hooked up with Rolling Stone, and Rolling Stone pays him to go on tour, not knowing he's 15. He lies about his age and sends him on tour with a new happening band in the scene coming up, a band called Stillwater. Stillwater has Billy Crudup playing Russell Hammond, the guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
It has Jason Lee playing Jeff Beebe, which is what Ty's little deal is about. He's the lead singer. And then he has one of the guys, I forget his name, but he's a real musician in there as well, playing the bassist. And then the drummer, somebody else. They're actual musicians, I want to say, the drummer and the bassist. And he follows them around on tour and has all the coming of age kind of tales in there. And he gets hooked up with Kate Hudson, who plays a Band-Aid / groupie named Penny Lane. And it's all about the experiences on tour and a 15-year-old dealing with meeting his favorite band and becoming friends with them, and still needing to write an article for the viewed enemy of Rolling Stone. So it's a fucking awesome movie. The soundtrack's obviously very killer, and I think the original songs in the movie are killer as well. They wrote for the movie. Absolutely awesome. And there's a lot of cameos in the movie, and there's a lot of just different little bits about little musicians in the movie as well from that time that I would recommend checking out if you have not already. And Cameron Crowe obviously is fucking great in everything he ever does. So there you go. He's not in it, but that he does. So there you go.
Yeah, I actually I'm still looking up that guy's name. Shit.
Jeff something.
No, Marty Fredrickson.
Okay, that's a drummer.
Mark, and then Mike McCready plays guitar.
Mark Kozlik
from Pearl Jam. What's that?
Mark Kozlik is the bassist in the movie.
Okay, the guy who sings the songs is the lead singer's name is Marty Fredrickson. Mike McCready plays in the songs, Nancy Wilson and Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
That's the band.
What band is,
I don't know
what band is Marty Fredrickson? You don't know? Okay.
Let me Google it. Hold on.
Yeah.
He's an American singer-songwriter. He's mainly a producer and songwriter. Okay. He's worked with Aerosmith, Gavin Rossdale, Carrie Underwood, Buckcherry, Daughtry, Ozzy, Crew, Faith Hill. He's also well known for performing the lead vocal. What?
Okay. That's all the heavy hitters.
What'd you say? Yeah. He's also well known for performing the lead vocals for the fictitious band Stillwater in the movie Almost Famous. So there you go.
Okay.
I thought you were arguing with me, and I'm like, I'm reading it off right now. It's like, what do you?
No. I honestly thought he was from a band. Like I thought he was actually a musician as well. Like obviously he's a producer.
He's just a big songwriter and producer. So he's done a lot of shit.
Okay, there you go.
So, anyways, I actually rewatched Almost Famous last night because it had been a while. And I have some things to fucking talk about Almost Famous about. Okay. So I absolutely adore Almost Famous too. It's one of the best. I'm a big Cameron Crowe fan. I think Cameron Crowe has the best 70s movie about like 70s culture. I think he has the best 80s movie, wrote, not directed, Fast Times, and a movie that will come up singles is the best 90s movie. I truly believe that. Like he has 3 decades worth, like capturing those decades. Anyway, I popped it. This is the 4K 20th anniversary steelbook set. Cool set. Hell yeah. I don't really dig the cover. I bought the steelbook because they announced this and they didn't announce the regular version. And I'm like, are they not coming out with a regular version? And then like 6 months later, the regular version came out. So that's the only reason I own the steelbook. But anyways, this has everything on it that you want. It's got extra bonus features. It's got the bootleg cut. I watched the bootleg cut last night for like maybe like the 3rd time in my life. Not good.
Yeah.
The bootleg cut is fucking useless. Really? It's 3 hours long. It's too long. I started the movie at 10 o'clock and ended it at 1. It's too long. There's also shit that doesn't make sense. So, for example,
I've seen it, but I don't remember any off the top of my head.
We've watched it. We watched the bootleg cut together, like many years ago. Anyways, there's a scene right after when Zooey Deschanel, the sister, leaves. She leaves home and she's going to become a stewardess. She leaves with Daryl, her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a scene after you transport to the future where Daryl like ends up going through the window of William's room. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so your sister's a stewardess now, huh? And it's like, yeah, dude, you're the one who fucking drove her away from the house. So like the continuity there is completely fucked. It's a funny scene because he's all talking about having sex with his sister in the room, and it's all it's all awkward and covered. And he's like, I just want to lay here for a little bit. It's a funny scene, but like that part of it makes zero fucking sense in context. A lot of that stuff, like to me, it doesn't need to be in the film, and there's a reason why they cut it out. There is a really cool part in the bootleg cut where they go to KDKB when they come to Phoenix.
Yes.
So that is very cool. Kyle Gass is the DJ. So a lot of people, there's so many people in this movie, which we'll talk about, that are it's just random, big name people, but they're in random roles. And he falls asleep in the interview and they're all cussing on the air and shit. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny scene, but it's like not, and it's cool to me because the KDKB was a local radio station. So that is very cool, but like it's not needed, the movie. I honestly think the theatrical cut is way better. I do love the movie. Russell Hammond's a pedophile, but you know how it goes. It is what it is. Some of that shit is pretty fucking awkward. Like then there's the scene when they're like making out in the icebox room, the ice room. And I don't know if that's in the bootleg, or I don't know if that's in the theatrical cut or not.
I want to say it's theatrical cut.
Or they cut it. But it's in the bootleg too, so it's in both, obviously. Yeah. But like that scene's awkward when you know the context, and like it is what it is, whatever. But everybody's great in it. There's classic fucking scenes in it. I think the drummer and the bass player are two of the best characters in the movie because the drummer doesn't say anything until he says I'm gay when the plane's going to crash. Yeah. It's the only thing he ever says in the movie. And then later when they're all freaking out that William wrote everything, when finally like Jeff tells Russell like he has you saying you're a golden god, and Russell's like I didn't say that, did I? And then at the end of that, they're like he looks at the drummer and he's like, you had it right the whole fucking time, man. Which is funny because the drummer says nothing the whole movie. So that's the line. There's so many people in this movie though. It's hilarious. Like last night when I was watching it, obviously Kyle Gass is in it. But I actually pulled up this article that I wanted to talk about. So 8 actors. So this kid, Seth Rogen's friend, he's the he's the Led Zeppelin fan, which is hilarious. He touched this pen. Mr. Jimmy Page touched this pen. This chick's in it. I didn't realize she's in it. Yeah. She's the DJ that Lester Bangs talking to. Obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman is fucking great in it too as Lester. One of the funniest parts about the whole fucking movie. Nick Swardson as the insane Bowie fan. This scene's hilarious because he's all shitting on Bowie the whole time.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to, he's like, yeah, his new shit's not fucking good. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And then like Bowie walks into and he starts freaking the fuck out. Mitch Hedberg, Eagles road manager. This says he doesn't have a line, but he does. He says it's like, yeah, don't tell him I'm here or some shit. He says something about the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then
also,
Zach.
I'm sorry. Yep.
Zach Ward. Zach Ward's also in Titus. He's Christopher Titus's brother on the old Titus show.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Yeah, more famous from A Christmas Story. But this character, this is one good thing about the bootleg cut because you get more Red Dog.
Mm-hmm.
So you get more Red Dog and be like Mark Maron, angry promoter, the angry Phoenix promoter. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, because they're all trying to fight each other and neither of them can fight. Trying to fight the band manager. Rainn Wilson, Eric Stonestreet, this guy. So there's a lot of people in Jimmy Fallon, obviously. He's actually pretty funny in it. The scene, I hate Jimmy Fallon, but the scene when the plane's going down, he's like, I killed a man. I hit him and I just kept running. Like, that scene's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
I also love his little quip when he's trying to convince him to take him on as a manager, and he does. I mean, it's whatever. It's an easy joke, but he goes, "Think Mick Jagger is gonna be out there rocking it when he's 60? No.
Yeah.
He's gonna maximize the money while he can."
It's still going right now. That movie came out over 20 years ago.
Absolutely, fucking great. I think because a lot of it's because Cameron Crowe was a writer for Rolling Stone when he was a younger dude. I don't know if he was a teenager necessarily, but he was damn near. And he went on tour with Allman Brothers and with Zeppelin, and a lot of that is Zeppelin stuff and Allman Brothers stuff. And Red Dog's a real person; he's a real guy for Allman Brothers. And then what's funny?
Russell Hammond's based off Glenn Frey.
Yeah.
It's ironic when he first met Glenn Frey.
There you go. I don't know if we were talking this before, but the when Russell and what the fuck is his name? William, when they're in the hotel room and he's going to do the interview and he starts yelling at him and he said, whatever. How do we know you're not a cop? Like one of those things, right? When he's doing that,
that's not in the hotel room.
When is
that's after the party? That's after he drops acid a bunch. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Correct. Yeah. So basically, what that scene is based on Cameron Crowe talking to Greg Allman, and then Greg Allman immediately heel turning on him and saying all that shit to him, and just blathering all that shit because Greg talked to him when he was fucked up, and obviously he's fucked up later in the scene too. And so just all that stuff, and a lot of what Russell said is loosely what Greg Allman used to say, kind of stuff to during that time he was with him, say to Cameron Crowe. So like about grown them, all that stuff. It's all that is based around like Greg Allman, and some of that's also Zeppelin stuff or whatever. The Jay Bruskel, the Zeppelin kid's based on a real guy. It's a real guy that he met while doing the Zeppelin tours. Just pretty crazy. And like I said, just everything about them. I think they do everything right. And obviously the Tiny Dancer scene is iconic, and that's everywhere, and everyone knows that scene. But it's genuinely a fucking great scene. Would recommend everyone at least seeking that out and checking that one, because that's like I said, that's the iconic scene of the movie.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up because we could talk about Almost Famous forever. We could do an Airheads Almost Famous podcast. But yeah, I rewatched it. Still holds up. Still a great fucking movie. Still funny. There's a lot of more laugh out loud scenes than I remembered in it, and it does have some good serious parts too. One scene that does not fucking hold up, and then we'll move on, is the stomach pumping scene. It doesn't hold up, and it's fucking awkward. And I don't know why it's in the fucking movie, because they're pumping her stomach, and it's like a sexualized scene. And they shoot it that way, like they're putting the tube down her throat and shit. She's all arching her feet and shit, and William's like sitting on the ottoman or looking at her, all like even falling more in love with her. Weird fucking scene. That's just awkward. That scene.
He calls himself out. Yeah, he kisses her, and he also says, like, I'm going where many, many men have gone before, and she's already passed out, basically, and he's holding her up, and he kisses her.
Yeah, which isn't a great thing, but like, I could kind of excuse that, whatever. It's just the way that they shoot and the music that they use during the stomach bombing scene. Like, it's like they're having sex. It's like the sex scene of the movie. It's really weird. Yeah. Also, the girl from The Craft plays the one groupie Band-Aid. She's in The Waterboy, Vicky Valancourt. She's in a shit ton of stuff. She is. Yeah. Zoe Deschanel. Tons of people.
One of my favorite scenes of the movie is something I think you pointed out to me at one point. Either you or my buddy Jake pointed out to me. I forget who it was many years ago. Is Jeff Beebe. So Jeff Beebe is the lead singer that Jason Lee plays, and they're talking about the article, and the line is like, and the chicks are great. He's like, I sound like a dick. And he's saying that, and he talks about the band like being all about Russell and everything else, and the whole in the promo he cuts, whatever, right? While wearing a Jeff Beebe Band shirt, which is the previous name of Stillwater before they changed it to Stillwater. It was Jeff Beebe Band. He's still rocking his solo band shirt while talking about how Russell he thinks he's the entire band and all other bullshit. Just very funny and ironic and hilarious. The hypocrisy in that little exchange they do. It's fucking hilarious.
All right, last thing, and then we'll move on. The one thing that does piss me off about them, another thing, little nitpick, is they're on their third album. They say that. Rolling Stone says that. Oh, the young band trying to make it. They're on their third record, on the come up.
Yeah.
The manager brings in the shirts, the famous shirts. And the manager says, oh, your first shirts are here. And I'm like, you're fucking 3 albums in and you just got shirts? What the fuck are you talking about?
That's bad business. That's bad business. Also,
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. But if we're doing that logistically, one of the fucking biggest fucking holes in that goddamn movie that I fucking point out, if I'm watching somebody, I'll fucking tell them every fucking time. I don't care how annoying I am. But when they talk about Zeppelin, they talk about Rolling Stone, they say they trashed every record Zeppelin ever made. They talk about it as past tense. It's 1973. Zeppelin exists for another 7 years and more records later. In that moment, there is no way in fucking hell anyone's talking like that about Led Zeppelin or the reviews from Rolling Stone. Grant you, Zeppelin's 4 records in. I get it. And they had bad reviews. I get it. No one's actually in the moment, hindsight, reflecting like that at the time. It's not a fucking thing. That's something we did, or not we, but society did later in life, like in the 80s, 90s, whatever, 2000s, whatever, right? It was not something they said back then. No matter what the fuck, because you're talking past tense, Zeppelin's still a band. They can still make a fucking record that critics love, all that stuff, right? It's not a thing. So that's kind of the little thing that annoys me when I see it. 73, Zeppelin has many more years ahead of them.
We nitpick the movie because we love it. You've seen it so many times, you start nitpicking shit about it. So great pick. Right. And one I was definitely going to pick too, but I'd let you go with it. Alrighty, let's go with another Cameron Crowe film. Fuck it. Singles. Now I was debating on whether to put it in because it's not really about a band. There is a band in it, like Chris Cornell's band, or not Cornell. What's his face? Matt Dillon's band. Cornell's in the fucking movie, but he's not in the band. Ponce or whatever. That's I think it's Soundgarden plays. I can't remember. Anyway. Obviously about the 90s Seattle grunge scene. Alice in Chains is in the movie. They go do an Alice in Chains show on one of the dates.
in the movie. It's one of the first times you hear "We Die Young" actually.
Ooh,
and
wow.
Pearl Jam's in the movie too. There's a really funny scene where in the diner and Pearl Jam's there, and Chris Cornell's in the movie. He's funny in it because I think his car gets towed. It's been a while since I've seen it, but his car gets towed or something. It's just a funny, awkward scene with Chris Cornell randomly. And it's a really good movie about that whole scene. Like I think it kind of sums up a lot of that lifestyle at the time. I would guess. Obviously I didn't live it, but with all those guys in it and with Cameron in it, being such a big fan of all those bands and in that area with Nancy too. I think it's a good representation of that. So that's why I do include it. Like it's not about a specific band. Obviously a great fucking soundtrack too. But I absolutely love fucking Singles. One of my top 10 probably favorite like rom-coms for sure. And it is just a rom-com at the end of the day. But I think if you strip all the Seattle like music stuff out of it, I don't think the movie's nearly as good. So
okay. Wow.
I think it adds a lot to it. Like them going to the Alice in Chains show, going on the dates. It adds a shit ton of like character to the movie. And the soundtrack, obviously. Great cast too. Bridget Fonda, Kira Sedgwick, Matt Dillon. Just a fucking great movie. Yeah. I'm a big Cameron Crowe fan, so yeah. Singles. Have you ever seen Singles?
I've never seen it. We talk about it every time. I've never seen it. I need to see it. I'm fucking stupid. I'm really dumb. I'm sorry.
I just gotta bring this over and bring Detroit Rock City over. Just have like a nice like 4-hour single Detroit Rock City marathon. This is a cool Blu-ray. There actually is 3 live performances from Soundgarden and Alice in Chains on here. Ooh. So you got some extra shit on here as well. So decent little Blu-ray. I would like a boutique label to pick this up and do like a nice box set though. I definitely dig that and probably spend too much money on it.
There you go. That's the shit. All right. Are we still doing them or is we doing honorables now?
Just keep going. I haven't even counted, bro. Just go.
All right. Whatever. All right. So I would be a failure here if I did not bring this one up because this man has a lot of cool documentaries about him, but whatever. This is going to be Bruce Springsteen. This is The Promise. It's the making of Darkness on the Edge of Town. So late 70s Bruce era. This is all about making Darkness, but it also talks about a lot of people don't know this about Bruce. Is he was also involved in a massive lawsuit with Mike Appel, his former manager, and co-producer, co-writer on Born to Run songs. So he basically signed an awful deal with Mike Appel and his agency when he first obviously just tried to get signed and tried to make a career of himself. He had a horrible deal with Mike Appel, and Mike Appel was taking so much fucking money, and Bruce is broke. So Born to Run was a pretty big record, obviously. It was much bigger in time, but even in the moment, it was still pretty big. And at the end of the tour cycle, he was fucking broke, and he was, why am I fucking broke? And then he realized that Mike Appel took all the money and had so many writing credits and fucking producer credits and everything else that and publishing or whatever, that Bruce had no fucking money. So he filed a lawsuit, left Mike Appel, and was going to make another record. The problem with that is Mike Appel put an injunction on him that he could not record and could not produce any more records. So Bruce then went ahead and played live for a number of years, for like 2 or 3 years straight, would just play live. And that was the way he paid his bills, basically. Like it was just like the rent money tours, some shit like that. I forget what it was called, but it was along those lines. And it was just trying to make sure everybody got their rent paid and whatever, right? So they talk about that in this documentary at the very beginning of it, obviously, and they talk about later demoing and making the record and starting off in the garage and kind of figuring stuff out at Bruce's house, and then later going on to the studio and all that stuff. I'm a sucker for any studio footage for any band really recording anything. It's always fucking insane for me to see that, because like I always just think about, no matter what band it is, like especially like iconic songs like the Beatles, Get Back sessions, like just this is the first time that got played. Like the fact that's on video is insanity. So anyway, so a lot of this Bruce stuff is also on video, obviously, and it's fucking crazy to see that. It's fucking crazy to see this guy pull out his notebook and fucking, have these songs there that have been a part of my life and everybody's lives for so many fucking years. And it's him first unleashing them to his bandmates, and putting them out there. Right. And Bruce is a fucking terrible terrible artist to work with in the studio, especially during this time, because Bruce was a perfectionist. They spent 8 months working on Born to Run, not the record, the song.
The song.
So the song. So Bruce would go in, and that's obviously the previous record, but he would tinker with that song every fucking day and realize he wants car sounds here, he wants fucking trumpets here, and they did everything they fucking could to the song that the bandmates would get so fucking angry and upset because like it would just constantly be like, do it again, 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 again. I want this sound, and then they're like, I'm doing this. It's all I got, man. They sort of fucked around and stuff. It's a lot of that. And there's so much stuff that went into these sessions. They later put out the box set, which I have over there that I didn't pull. I probably should have, I guess. But they have a box set they eventually put out in 2009, I think it was. And it's all the Promise sessions. And it's a triple LP leftover songs from the record that didn't make the cut. And a lot of those came out previously, but some didn't. And The Promise was a big legendary song that like Bruce played live, but never released the official recording of. So The Promise is what this is named after, and they put the song out with the box set that came out later during this time, and just fucking awesome. So anything Bruce does, they always top tier, high quality, because he has all the money in the world, and Sony wants to do everything they can for him. So I definitely enjoy this. I enjoy all the Bruce documentaries, even for the new records and stuff like that come out. It's always super stimulating to see an artist, whether it be at 25, 30, or older, obviously at 70-something-year-old man, just crazy to fucking see his creative process happen and right before your eyes, and to see the songs come together. So The Promise, Making Darks on the Edge of Town, Springsteen, check it out if you're a fan.
That's because I always loved classic albums.
Yeah, 100%.
And even albums I didn't even care about, I would always watch it.
Absolutely, because it's just insane to see the fucking studio stuff, and to see like I'm a big fucking nerd for like real tape fucking boxes and stuff, and just seeing like the master tape boxes and shit they would pull out for the classic albums, that shit would just fucking blow my mind. Just if you can give me a documentary about a band that I even kind of care about at all, and you include the making of and studio footage and this and that, fucking about it every day of the week, I will watch 10 hours of that. I don't care. It's fucking so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. I'm gonna go with kind of a fun one here that I know Tyler doesn't know about and probably wouldn't pick, obviously. But this is a Vinegar Syndrome release by this. Vinegar Syndrome is a boutique Blu-ray label. They do a lot of cult films, underground films, shit that it would die otherwise because it's not anywhere. This is Hard Rock Zombies. This is one of the cheesiest, dumbest, laugh out loud films, because I love absolutely shitty movies. I love so bad it's good movies. Like those are some of my favorite watches. And this movie is hilarious. It was 85 when it was released. Yeah, released in 85. Basically, it's about this. It's a Canon film from the 80s. Canon did a lot of big cult films in the 80s, distributed them. Anyway, it's about this rock band that visits this town. They're going to play this show. They end up getting killed, and they end up coming back as zombies. And there's like a cult family like in the town that they get wrapped up in. And then you find out the cult leader is Hitler, and like Hitler's alive. So it's just absolutely crazy shit. It's set in the 80s too. Like it's not set in the 40s or some shit. Like it's set in the 80s. So it's just like this absolutely
like an 80-year-old man.
Yes, like that. There's funny scenes with it because he's so fucking old. But it's absolutely crazy. The title track is hilarious. There's a really cool documentary on this set. Vinegar Syndrome always does it right. There's a cool documentary about the making of this film, and they interview like really hardcore fans, and it's just insane to see these fans about this movie, and it's just like this stupid cult film, but like it's funny.
Is
like
there anyone
what clicks with people. There's nobody in it like big. There's the funny part about it is like there's one guy. I think it's the guy who plays the lead singer, who was actually a musician, whereas the rest of the band couldn't play shit, and it's obvious. I think I have that right. I could be backwards, but I'm almost positive that's right. Where he was the only guy who had any, or no, it's the opposite. He was the only actor. The rest of the band are actually musicians, so he's the only one that can act, and the rest of the guys cannot act. I'm almost positive that's it. But the guy who directed it is Paul Sabo. Paul Sabo was a big producer and writer in the 80s. He's worked with a ton of people. He worked with Bowie. He worked with Alice Cooper. He worked with Hart. Big 80s guy. He worked with Bowie on Dance. He worked with Hart on Heart in 85. Worked with John Waite. He's worked with the Motels, Wasp. Just a ton of fucking big acts in the 80s. Quiet Riot. What other credits does he have? Madonna credits.
Wow.
Shania
Just directing their
videos? Producing and writing credits on albums.
Okay. Wow.
So he has a lot of his music's been featured in a lot of movies and soundtracks for TV shows, but he also has production and mixing credits on 14 platinum and 11 gold records. So he did a ton of stuff, and he directed this film, which is really funny. Yeah, he is born. His father was an Indian Bollywood film star named Sabo, and it's spelt Sabu, Sabu, just like the wrestler. So
yeah.
And I'm almost positive it's pronounced Sabo. I don't think it's Sabu because he's in the documentary in this. But anyways, that's like the big connection to actual like real music, but it's an absolutely fucking hilarious movie. If you're into B movies, B horror movies, horror comedies, highly recommend it. It's a fun watch. It might be on that free service. I can't remember it, but it might be on some streaming services. So check it out. If not, this is the only easily way to physically obtain it. This is backed with Slaughterhouse Rock, which is also a pretty fun movie. Basically, this kid goes to Alcatraz and then he starts having dreams about a band that was murdered there. So it's a fun movie. Hard Rock Zombies is better though, but Slaughterhouse Rock is the B-side. So you get two films on this.
That's crazy. Okay, so I was looking at this a little bit while we were talking. So you cannot stream it anywhere. Okay. So that is an impossibility at this point. So I apologize for anybody that wants to do that. So you got to pick up the physical copy if you'd like to do that. It is currently rocking a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So
I'm not saying it's a good movie.
No, I'm just saying definitely the B movie territory for sure of that ilk for sure. So yeah. No, that's crazy. No, I'll if you want to bring that over and drop it off, I'll check it out at some point as well.
I think you'd have fun with it. It's only like 90 minutes or something too. It's a quick watch. So
there you go. Love it. All right, Hard Rock Zombies. There you go. All right, so getting down a little bit here. Another one that I think both of us have on our list, but I'll be the one to bring it out because I have it. Is High Fidelity. So there you go. So High Fidelity is a movie about a man going back through his life with his exes, getting broken up with, then going back through his life with his exes, and then kind of tracing music to that era and being very depressed and sad bastard and everything else throughout the entire movie while owning a record store. So that's the entire, basically plot point of the movie, and hijinks ensue among, the characters in there. It has starring John Cusack. It has Jack Black in it. Has the other guy that I don't know his name, but he's also in other stuff. Has that guy in it. Catherine Zeta-Jones in it. Who's the is it Jim
Robbins?
Belushi? It's not Tim Robbins. There you go. I was like Jim Belushi. Yeah, Tim Robbins is in it. Yeah, so there's a lot of it's a very legendary little, obviously music movie, vinyl movie, whatever. A lot of cool little vinyl collector little tidbits in there that if you're into vinyl, you'll appreciate it that way. If you're into music, you'll appreciate it that way because there's a lot of in-depth nerdy, record and band music stuff in there. So it's all that wrapped up in a relationship, so there you go. So High Fidelity, there you go.
Good soundtrack too. Got
perfect.
Got your boy Bruce Springsteen in it as well. So
yeah, it's Bruce's only, to my knowledge, I know it was at one point. I'm pretty sure it's still that way. It's his only appearance in a movie ever.
Yeah, Joan Cusack is in it too. Plays John's sister. It's just funny. Yeah, Yeah, definitely a good movie. I still enjoy it. The first movie me and my wife ever watched together was actually
Oh, wow.
High Fidelity. Yeah. And yeah, done by the guys who did Gross Point Blank, also another good John Cusack movie. They really like, not music related, but really cool movie as well. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sarah Gilbert's also in it. Fucking Lisa Bonet. Forgot about that entirely.
Yes. Yeah, Lisa Bonet's in it. Yeah, really good cast. The book's really good too. I have heard the book. The book is very British. It's a British author, so the references are way different.
Yeah.
In the movie, and the top 5 lists are way different. They Americanized the film quite a bit. Did not enjoy the show. I watched like 3 episodes of the show, and I'm like, this is not the same. This is not the same vibe. They tried to remake it for a modern audience, and like, it's not. Nothing against it, just wasn't for me. Still highly
starring Zoe Kravitz, Lisa Bonet's daughter, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that is funny. Did you ever try the show at all?
I didn't. I remember when it came out, because I remember you were jazzed for it, and I remember we talked about it, and I think it just came out, and I think you binged like 4 or 5 episodes of it real quick, and then like you told me that you're like, yeah, I'm not about it at all, and then I kind of took that. I was like, all right, well, if I'll check it out at some point, but then I never did. But I just knew that you obviously were not a fan, and we have a lot of the same ish tastes in that sort of stuff, so I just I never dove in.
Yeah, that set you have too. I used to have that. It's a record store day set. That thing's money now.
Oh, I think, did you get this for me, or did we get this together? I think we got this together.
We just got together. It was just one record store day we got together. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's money now. Mike at the In-Groove had it on the wall, like
he did
maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So yeah, good movie.
I want to say he still does. Is that not true? It's been there forever.
It might still be there. It's too much money I don't want to spend on it. It'll eventually get repressed.
Yeah.
Let's go with another John Cusack movie. Tyler and I saw this in the theater together, actually. Love and Mercy. Really,
I was on my list.
Film. Oh, okay, cool. Really enjoy this film about Brian Wilson. John Cusack's fine in it. He plays the older Brian Wilson, but Paul Dano is the star of this film. He plays the younger version of Brian. Really cool film too, because it alternates, it bounces back and forth between younger and older, and it's about Brian's craziness and depression, and his therapist and all that shit taking advantage of him. And Paul Giamatti is the therapist, so Paul Giamatti is very good in everything that he does. So great cast, really cool. They do a lot of pet sound stuff in here, so they do a lot of like making of pet sounds type of shit, and really cool movie. It's sad, obviously, but it has a nice happy ending. So yeah, highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Even if you're not a Beach Boys or Brian fan, like it's still a good watch. So
it shows the dynamics between, because the Beach Boys are also a very weirdly dynamic band.
Yeah.
And it shows those dynamics very early too, because it's Brian's band. Yeah, with their dad. It's Brian's band and his brother and then their cousins, whatever, right? But Brian's dad was the original manager and basically fucking resented them all together, because he was a musician as well, right? And then they were obviously much more accomplished musicians, even at 20 years old. And he took ownership of their catalog, sold their catalog, and just basically fucked them over a lot. And he would beat Brian, and that's what gave him the deafness in his right ear, I believe it is, and just fucked him up for good. And that probably led into obviously his bouts with mental illness for the rest of his life until today, right?
Yeah.
And it just basically outlines the genius of Brian Wilson rather well. Obviously, none of us know the exact story, but for what we know in the movie, it's fucking crazy to see what that dude went through and everything that kind of happened with him, and to see where he turned out and kind of came out on the other side of it for as well as you possibly can. There's a lot of, especially later in life, there's a lot of weird and sad events that happen that, because he's, if you never seen the movie, you don't know the story, he gets basically taken away from his family and his friends and his career for like 10, 12 years by Eugene Landy, who's his doctor, his therapist. And then his therapist just takes advantage of him for the majority of that time and cuts him off from his entire family, from everybody. And he takes his money, he puts himself on writing credits. He makes him make music he doesn't want to fucking make. All kinds of weird shit. And it's just very sad, because you just see the genius of the 60s and of an entire movement and music scene is kind of withering away under, just basically under like the spell, there you go, of pharmaceuticals and brainwashing.
Yeah,
for they said like 12 years. It's fucking sad and horrible.
Absolutely crazy fucking story.
Yeah,
but and you know that shit still happens. You know that shit still happens today. With celebrities and musicians and
100%. I mean, for better or worse, we just saw that happen with Britney Spears, and now she's out and off that, and we'll see how it all turns out. But that also just happened with her for fucking 15 years, so it's crazy.
Love and mercy. What you got?
All right, so now I'm done with physicals. So now these are just on my list here that I wrote down. Another one that I personally love is A Star Is Born. I don't think Ty has checked that one out yet. I know you have it. I don't think you've watched it yet, though. No. Star Is Born is a great, truly great movie. I need to buy the soundtrack. It'll probably be money at some point. So that sucks, but I need to buy that here soon enough. So Star Is Born came out, and I want to say in 2016 or 17, starring Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. It's Gaga's first major role in a movie, and she plays an aspiring musician, and Bradley Cooper plays a very accomplished musician at that point in time. You lost it. You don't have it anymore. You threw it away. What the hell, man? Is it A? Look at the A's.
I was like, I thought I had the 4K. Maybe I don't have the 4K. That's why.
You said the DVD?
Oh, there you go. And it said the Blu-ray.
There you go.
Jesus Christ. There you go.
So if you got a code in there, homie, hook a homie up later.
I might have used it if I gave you all my codes. So if it didn't work, I either used it.
Yeah,
or it was already used.
Yeah, you're fine. So it plays Jackson. What's his last name? Jackson something or other. I don't know. You don't have to look it up. It's fine.
Fuck. Jackson, Maine.
There you go, Jackson, Maine. So basically, A Star Is Born is a movie that's been done. I think that's the 5th time it's been done. It's been done every 15 or so years, 20 years, since 1918 or something. And it's always the same from what I glean, from what I've been told and read. It's always just roundabout the same-ish story, just differently done every time.
Gotcha.
But it's a very, very intense movie. It's a love story, obviously. And man, I can't remember the last time I cried that much at a movie. I really can't. I'm an easy tear. I am an easy tear for a lot of different stories. But that one left me really fucked for a good little while. The rest of that night, maybe the next morning too. It's horrible, man. It's a great movie. It's a great soundtrack. Yeah. The songwriting in there, Gaga's great. She's a great actress as well. And Bradley Cooper obviously is a good actor too. But the soundtrack and all the songs, fucking just top tier. And Shallow obviously dominated the charts there in the radio for a good year and a half afterwards. But if you are a fan of any of that stuff, of Bradley Cooper, Gaga, of about sad movies, movies based upon fictitious people in bands, there you go. Go and check it out. But be prepared to get sad. But it's a great movie.
Yeah, I need to check it out. I remember my parents loved it. Like they absolutely adored that. Nice. All right.
100%.
I'll go with the best. For my money, it's the best music biopic ever. Biopic. Walk the Line.
There you go.
Still love this movie. Saw it in the theaters when it came out. Funny thing is when they do the tribute at the end to Johnny, and it was June too. I think they have a tribute to both of them. We're leaving the theater, and like the lady in front of us, like, "Oh, he died." It's like, yes, what the fuck are you talking about, lady? She was like 60, 50 years old too. Like, you were alive for a lot of this shit. Anyway, absolutely stellar fucking movie. Obviously, Joaquin Phoenix is excellent. Reese Witherspoon's fucking great. Really cool fucking movie. I still love it. One of the best scenes in it is when because Roy's in it, and Roy's playing or something, and like Johnny's calling home, and he's like, Roy Orbison's playing one of my songs,
or something. I think that's one of the songs I wrote. Okay. I just marked out for that scene, so it's a huge Roy mark. But great fucking movie. Saw it in the theater, like probably within the first week that it came out. Still will rewatch it anytime I ever saw it on TV. And absolute classic.
It's really well done, and the soundtrack as well, because they have Joaquin and Reese singing on the soundtrack themselves, which is pretty crazy.
And they're good.
They don't sound half bad. Yeah, they sound very well, or very good. And what's also crazy about that is they get in the nitty gritty about Johnny Cash too. Like they show how messed up he was on pills and everything else at the time.
Yeah,
they show him that, and they show the dynamic between him and June, and like especially if you, I mean, we saw this preview episode, whatever. We didn't actually, because it's not on there. But the music videos, we talk about the Hurt music video with Johnny Cash, and
we talk about Johnny in the 2003 episode. So shout out to 2003. Because Johnny died in 2003, so we do touch on Johnny.
There you go, good call. But if you watch the Hurt video, it was the last thing that Johnny Cash really did on a mainstream level. The biggest thing he did of that time when he on his comeback, or whatever you want to say, right? If that was the last thing you saw about Johnny Cash, then you watched Walk the Line, you get a pretty good all-encompassing picture of the complicated nature of him and the history that he has within music, and then also with June, obviously. It's a very cool thing. I'm not a Johnny Cash expert by any means, but I have not, to my mind, in my anecdotal evidence, I don't know about anybody like that out and out says like this shit's bullshit, that never happened, whatever. So as far as I know, it's pretty accurate and it's pretty well done, even among Johnny Cash biographers. I could be lying to you, but I just have not ran into that in my time.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a Johnny biographer either, but it seems like they don't pull many punches. So
yeah,
absolutely classic flick. So it still holds up. And for my money, after all the movies that have come out since that, that's the best one.
Yeah. No,
about like musicians and shit. So
yeah.
What else you got?
All right. So another one I have here. I don't have this physically. I don't have anything about this. You actually just recently picked something up from this, but I'm gonna go with Metallica, Some Kind of Monster. I love that documentary. It's all about the documentary of making Saint Anger and what led up to them making Saint Anger, the recording sessions. And it's basically, for a brief moment, about the breakup of Metallica. And it's all about them getting a new bassist, and then James leaving for fucking almost 2 years. And then they don't know whether they have a band anymore. They don't know if they have a fucking... They don't know what their lives are, and they just sit in the studio for fucking a year and a half, 18 months or so, and just kind of twiddle their thumbs and just kind of do weird shit. And then when James comes back from rehab, because he goes into rehab for his alcoholism, once he comes back, it's all about the therapy sessions. They bring in a therapist, and they, examine the relationships between the guys. And a lot of people say, and a lot of like big metal guys and everything else, they fucking hate it, and they hate the fact that they peeled back so many layers of the band, and they showed the band as like people. That's kind of why I love it. I love the documentary because it shows all of that. It shows them as just people. Like, I understand people like mystery about their favorite musicians and stuff, and I understand, like, especially about the biggest, heaviest metal band in the world, whatever, right? Like, I understand maybe you want a little of that mystery and you want to, maintain that. But I like the fact they go into all their shit. And I like the fact that, they have Jason in there talking about leaving. And then they later have the therapy sessions between the band members. And then another weird one that happens, we talked about this before, but another weird one that happens is when James is off in rehab, they have a therapy session with Lars and Dave Mustaine. And they talk about Dave getting kicked out of the band, and Dave starts crying, talking about how his life is basically fucking, how shitty his life is because he's not Metallica anymore, and what that means. And to us, that's a very crazy thing to hear. And it's very clear. And like I've said to Ty 100 times, and I'm not the first person to say that it becomes very clear that in Dave Mustaine's most idyllic of worlds, Megadeth never existed, and he was just in Metallica. And that's just what happened. So it's a really weird thing. And they also start peeling back the layers of the Cliff stuff, and they start figuring out why they were the way they were. And it's just very interesting, just on a human level, not even just about a Metallica, but just a human level. I think it's a very interesting little documentary.
Yeah, it's definitely good. It's a memeable movie, that's for damn sure.
Oh, yeah. There's a
it's
lot of ridiculous
funny.
shit.
Yes, but it still is a good doc, and it's a cool insight into that band who, at that point, hadn't really done anything being close to that. Like, and learning about the making of that record, and obviously the record is awful too. So it ties into all that. It's one big package, and them trying to find the new bass player and getting Rob, and there's some cool parts when they're auditioning people too. So you get to see some other famous people. And yeah, it's a good flick. It's a good flick. Didn't make my list, but yeah, definitely a good one. All right, let's
I
go.
watched it many, many times, and I will watch it again for sure. So there you go.
I watched that thing like 6 or 7 times. It's like 6 times too many.
Hold on. What did Anna say the last time you watched it? What did what was her observation?
The first time she ever saw it was like, it's like these guys have never written music before. It's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, also the vast majority, you realize that they've never talked to each other before. So like,
very true. Yes.
It's so fucking weird that at that point they're 22 years into the band, 25 years in, because it goes up to 03, right? So or no, I guess it'd be 23 years, whatever. But
yeah.
It's fucking insanity that you guys have obviously never had a conversation with each other about anything besides, I guess, music and just surface level shit. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah. Fascinating. It is a good movie. Yeah. I'll stick with the Metallica theme. Fuck it. This is it's a loose interpretation, but I wanted to throw it in here. And I'm almost done. So Hesher. Not really a music movie, but it is about a metalhead. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Hesher. This is one of the best fucking movies ever. It's one of the only movies that has like only Metallica soundtrack too, which is really cool. So I remember when the movie was coming out, like that was a big deal about it. Natalie Portman's in it. Also shout out to Rainn Wilson. That's the second shout out for him tonight. Because Almost Famous. But Hesher's a really funny movie. It's a metalhead guy, basically lives in his van. He ends up crashing with this kid, and the kid's like 12 or 13, and ends up helping him and shit, and like beat up his bullies and like be cooler. And he ends up like the grandma lives with him, and the grandma dies, and it's sad. And one of the funniest lines in the whole fucking movie is when the grandma wants to go on a walk with her grandson, nobody wants to go on the walk with the grandma, and Hesher's like, no, go on the walk with the grandma, and then, hey, you don't know, someone could grab her, rape her, and then she's like, who would want to, or like, I think Rainn Wilson or her is like, who would want to rape me? And he's like, I don't know, there's some sick fucks out there raping grandmas. Absolutely great movie. And then he gets them illegal cable and gets them porn, and he's just watching porn in the living room, just like during the middle of the day and shit. It's funny because he just ends up living with them, and like Rainn Wilson's like the dad, and because Rainn Wilson's wife dies, and he's down and out, and he's like he just starts living with him, and Rainn Wilson like doesn't even really say anything about it. It's hilarious. It's just
Isn't that scene in the movie where he just he gets sick of watching like whatever they're watching, and then he just goes and climbs he walks outside and climbs the fucking pole, and then does whatever he does to give them free cable, and then climbs back down and goes and watch TV.
Yeah, it's hilarious. There's so many scenes like that, and it's set to Metallica tunes. So
fucking A. Yeah, me and you watched that because I want to say you watched it before I did. Then I think we watched it over your parents' house way back when. That's like 2010 when that movie came out or some shit. It's a long time ago.
2011, so close. Yeah. I remember the build, like the hype for that movie. That was on all the metal sites, like Metallica soundtrack movie coming out. Yeah, so that's why I watched it like right away. I might have sailed the high seas to watch that so early.
Nice.
Anyway, you got any more?
Good throwback. So the sailed the high seas.
Pirate Bay.
Yeah. All right, so another one that I have here, let's see. I got 3. I'll just do them real quick, whatever, because it's whatever. But something that you have not seen, but I've told you to watch, and I think you will at some point, whatever. We're both not huge Eagles guys at all, but History of the Eagle, it's like 3 hours long. There's 2 parts to it. It's fucking great, even if you're not an Eagles fan, because they get so in the weeds about shit, and like they talk about all the things you want to hear about, but then they talk about the things you really want to hear about, and like they start shooting on each other in the middle of the documentary, and they start talking shit about everybody, and they show like they have audio of like fights they had in the last show they ever did. They have the audio from the forum where they got in a fucking fist fight with each other, and you just hear like Glenn Fry and Don Felder going back and forth, and Don Henley. I mean, not Henley, but you hear like fucking Glenn Fry. I think it's Don Felder going back and forth. And it's like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you when we're done with this. Unless you fucking try, pussy. It's just that shit. You literally hear it on stage. It's fucking crazy. And it's all about them fighting in the limos and shit. But obviously, Eagles, they are one of the biggest bands of all time, and it talks about obviously all of that. But then it gets really, really, in the nitty gritty of everything. They talk to all the guys, and they don't pull any punches, man. They put it out there. They really fucking do the documentary, and evidently they didn't scorch the earth because they're still on tour right now for the remaining members. So
the ones that
there's
around,
there's that. So there's history of the Eagles. Another one I had on there is Amy, which is the Amy Winehouse documentary. Actually saw that in theaters. If you're not a huge Amy Winehouse fan, it's actually still a really cool documentary. It's all basically about her, obviously her life, and then she died at 27, so there's not a lot of her life that she lived, and it's all about her struggle with drugs and people obviously enabling that, and her getting clean, being enabled, dating certain horrible people, and being more into drugs and all that stuff, and eventually obviously dying after releasing 3 fucking huge records. And she's obviously, among certain folk, has attained a legendary status because of her short but pretty fucking crazy career. So I'd recommend that if you're into Amy Winehouse. And then the last one I have, Bastards of Young. It's a documentary about the early mid 2000s pop punk, hardcore punk scene on the East Coast, about the DIY scene out there. And they interview tons of bands: Fall Out Boy, Midtown, Thursday, basically every big band from that scene. They talk to all of them, and they get interviews with all those guys, and they talk about and they have different label heads. It's kind of sort of like a West Civilization, a Decline. It's kind of sort of the same kind of gimmick almost. Like truly thinking about this now, but there's no like super sad parts to it, which is nice. It's just all about being broke and kids going to basement shows and shit, and like identifying with the music and whatever. It's obviously the very different music and the very different person it applies to or appeals to, right? So I would recommend watching that. It was on Fuse for a while there when we were kids. That's how I found out about it. And it shows a lot of bands super early in that scene. Take Back Sundays in there. There's Starting Lines in that, and they're all super, super young. It's shot around 2001, 2002 or so. So everybody is fucking crazy young, and has other bands that are became huge 5 or 6 years later. It shows them at a younger age, and what kind of led them to where they got in later in life. So would recommend watching that if you're into the pop punk emo scene from the early 2000s.
Nice, good choices. I'll wrap up here. Blues Brothers, classic. Here's the 4K. Definitely a music movie. I mean, they're a band basically. So comedy, but what's that?
A lot of cameos.
Oh yeah, a lot of cameos. Classic lines, very quotable. So I had to throw Blues Brothers in there. Next up,
you can't do Blues Brothers 2000 now. That's just okay. Just you already did Blues Brothers. Don't do 2000.
The video is over.
The next one.
Shit.
Yeah.
Next up, surprised Tyler didn't put this on there. Wedding Singer.
Wow, didn't think about it.
Definitely a music movie to me. I mean, he plays a wedding singer, so obviously a great soundtrack too. Very quotable, funny lines. One of my favorite Sandler movies. The whole best man speech is amazing with Steve Buscemi. Shout out Buscemi, like Tyler said earlier in the video, just fucking legendary. So great fucking flick, obviously.
I think we quote a Buscemi or Sandler line, and probably Buscemi line almost every time we hang out. So at some point. Got to.
Next up, I guess I'll do my musical here. Grease. Here's the 40th anniversary. This is really cool. It's like a yearbook. Grease holds a special place in my heart. My wife and I were in Grease together. We played Marty and Sonny in the musical. But this is cool. It's like a yearbook.
That is
set.
Cool.
So Very cool there. And then I guess I consider it a music movie. Obviously, it's a musical, but which I tried to shy away from. But it's more of a obviously it's more of a rock musical, I guess. So,
yeah.
Here's the 20th anniversary set, the 40th and the 20th anniversary set.
Oh wow, there you go. Hell yeah!
I bought this with you.
Did you really? I forget. Okay, all right.
Yeah. This has the main reason I bought it is it actually has the script in it.
Oh yes.
Which I find really cool because obviously I did the play, so I remember a lot of that is transferred over, and then it has the soundtrack too on CD.
Fuck yeah!
So that is a very cool set.
Were you a fan of Grease? Like were you a big fan of Grease before like Sentimentality in high school and everything else? Anna, were you a fan at all? No. Okay.
No, not really. I wouldn't be a fan if I didn't have that set. I don't really. I'm not big into musicals, honestly. I like Phantom. I've seen the off-Broadway Phantom. Really impressive production.
Yeah.
Very cool. I've seen Rent, which is cool, but just did Grease. So I'm not a big musical guy. I like La La Land quite a bit. I was thinking about putting that on the list. That's a really good movie. My last two, and again, this kind of goes against my thing, but I think if you take the music out of this movie, it doesn't work. So, like, and you said it at any other time. One of my all-time favorite films, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, written by Cameron Crowe. Just a fucking classic film. Obviously a great cast. Sean Penn, Spicoli, classic fucking character.
Phoebe Cates
still holds up. Phoebe Cates, obviously.
Yeah, Judge
Reinhold. Mock Trial with Judge Reinhold. Just a fucking great film, man. This is the Criterion edition. Came out last year. We'll probably get a 4K now. This is the Blu-ray. They'll probably upgrade it to 4K this year, so I can buy it again. But this is a really good set. A lot of special features on here. Yeah, one of my all-time favorite flicks. And I think if you kind of take the soundtrack and the music out of it,
doesn't work
as well.
It doesn't work as well. Correct.
And then I thought you were going to pull it. I pulled it, but you can riff on it. Dazed and Confused. Much like Fast Times, similar vibe. I think there is soundtrack. I think if you take the music out of this, and I don't think it's as impactful. And the music was such a big deal. Linklater, like the first, and they talk about this in this booklet here in this Criterion edition. I gotta get the 4K, but this is the regular Blu-ray. But they talk about it in this, like he gave them all mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the first thing he did. Was like, here's all the music that's in the movie, not the script, not anything. Here's the music. Take these tapes home and listen to them to get the vibe.
Yeah.
And then you also have the that Texas Austin vibe, that filmmaking scene. Fascinating too, because this ties in with Texas Chainsaw New Generation. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of tie over in the crew, because that was also filmed in Austin, which is fascinating to me. Great movie. I'd also recommend Everybody Wants Some. That's Linklater's 80s movie.
Still haven't seen it.
It's more of it's about a college baseball team. So it's less of a music movie, but also very good. So Dazed and Confused, obviously a big movie for Tyler too. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I pulled it, but then I did the whole, I didn't know where we were going to go officially with it. So yeah, I disregarded that a little bit, but same tip, a little bit of the same tip. Like, I mean, it's still a great show, but I think it's different if you didn't have the music. Wonder Years. Another thing. So obviously it's not a movie at all or whatever, right? But I pulled this too because at the same point, I think of Wonder Years, you pulled all those because the songs are so attached to certain scenes, episodes, whatever in that series, that if you were to pull everything from that, which I think in certain streamings it happens like that, right? But if you pull those songs, they're not as impactful. So as you know, it's a show, but kind of the same vein. I think if you did that, same kind of deal. But
agreed.
Wonder Years all fucking great.
Agreed with you. That's the list, I think.
Well, also real quick, Fantasia. I'm a big Fantasia guy. So also if I can showcase Fantasia and Sorcerer Mickey, I'm gonna do that. So shout out Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse.
Didn't want to pull out the VHS.
Oh shit! I forgot I even had that. Honestly,
wow.
Yeah, I have the sealed VHS of this as well. But there we go. Fucking Fantasia, love it.
There you go. Yeah, that's the list, guys. That's a lot of music movies. That ran a little long. So if you're still here with us, we appreciate it. Might as well like the video, subscribe, leave a comment down below. What are your favorite music movies or soundtracks? We got to do a part 2 of just soundtracks and kind of eliminate the music movie part of it because that would be a fun list as well. But we always end the episode with the choosing of next week's topic. Tonight was my choice, and next week is Tyler's choice. So, Tyler, the floor is yours.
So next week we're doing another physical media driven thing, right? But like not. So next week will be most wanted or most deserving represses. So things that are not currently pressed, that you want to be pressed, or that once were, or that were never pressed, or were once in press and have since gone out of press and are $1 trillion fucking dollars. So most wanted, out of press records or non-printed, whatever. So there you go.
Or never printed.
Or never pressed, whatever, all that stuff. So most wanted pressings, represses, all that stuff. So there you go.
Good choice. That'd be fun, bringing it back to records. We haven't done a topic just on records. So, well, I guess we did Record Store Day. So check that out. We did a whole breakdown of the list and the prices and what we want this Record Store Day. But anyways, guys, that's all we got for you tonight. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time on the Living Deadwax podcast. Peace.